am Nadia Dalimonte with Next Best Picture, and I'm joined by the brilliant Daisy Ridley, star and producer of the upcoming thriller Magpie. Now, people are in for treats with this film, and I'm very, very excited to be chatting with Daisy here about it. Daisy, hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So, this film is such a thrilling play on perspective, and I'd love to start with your perspective here. I know that the film is based on an original idea that you had from a previous experience on set. And could you talk about the genesis of that idea and the potential that you saw in making it into a feature?
So the genesis was I was on a film with this little girl who was unbelievable. And was thinking about how quickly bonds are formed on sets. You get to set and like 12, 14 hours a day, you're with people. It's such an intensive environment. And I was thinking about, she would call me mummy in the scenes, of course, and she knew I wasn't, but I was thinking about those lines and how we maintain them, honestly, as actors. So actually the original idea was an actress who wanted so much to actually be the mum of a child playing her daughter that she tried to infiltrate a family. So that was the original idea I took to Tom, and he started writing it. And not long into the writing process, he said, I just feel way more drawn to the woman at home who doesn't get to be on set, who doesn't get to experience the intoxication of a film set, who doesn't get to form these bonds, and honestly, who is probably finding it very strange that her daughter's at work calling someone else mummy. So that was where Tom went. And then add to that, the woman that we're trying to understand, particularly in the first half of the film, is in the mid to latter part of a very difficult marriage and has made a lot of concessions along the way and a lot of compromises in that marriage. And she's cut off and she's isolated and she has no community and a baby that doesn't sleep. So there's a lot that she's contending with. And I think in other circumstances, she might be handling things a little more fully, but in the environment she's in with no other support system, she is not in the easiest place.
And I feel like switching that perspective from the actress's point of view to Annette's, it kind of makes the story even more isolating in a way, because in Ben's world, she's sort of on the sidelines, but here we get this really incredible spotlight on her.
Yeah, and I mean, for Ben, he gets to leave this house that he is the one that wanted to go to, but he now hates it. He gets to leave that and go to work, and he gets to have both experiences. And of course, in comparison to what he's experiencing in the day, he comes home and it's not good for him. And we are seeing Annette at home, oftentimes bored. And it's interesting because our co-producer, Kate, she has 3 children. And as someone without children, I was like, my main priority is Annette can't look like a bad mom. And she was like, no, it's fine. And we had conversations with a lot of women about motherhood and how it can honestly be boring. And that was something that we found, I found very interesting to hear, because I hadn't heard people describe it like that before, but repetitive, and it can be isolating, and how you're filling those moments, particularly when you have an awareness that your husband has a wandering eye. And as the viewer, you get to see both of these perspectives, really. Annette's real perspective of what's going on around her, and Ben's. And it's a ride in the beginning to figure out what really is true and whose perspective is true, and if we can rely on that point of view.
That play on perspective and the switching, it really adds a lot of tension. And I was wondering, with the idea that Tom has expanded on with the writing, in that process of seeing Magpie from its inception to the final film, was there a certain development that you found most surprising or most exciting to kind of tap into in that whole process?
Well, the big development was that Tom fully came up with the ending. So we always knew we wanted the noir feeling. We always knew we wanted a thrilling ride, but he had come up with that. And in a way, I think that is why the characters are so relatable, because what's going on is sort of awful, but the response has been, oh yeah, either I've been Annette or I've been Ben in some way or another. And I think because those characters were built so much in some ways it was a relationship drama in some ways, and then Tom adding that really shifted the mood, particularly of the second half of the film. And it also gives it that propulsive energy that once we realize something else is at play, and once the audience realizes something else is going on, the amping up to the end happens in quick succession until the lid's off and everything is exposed.
And I was also thinking about the character of Annette and your performance, your incredible performance for her. And it had me thinking about how so often as women we are expressed or expected to compress our rage and our anger and to be calm and not make a fuss. And we even get those incredible moments throughout the film of Annette, she's breathing in and out and she's trying and trying to hold it in. And it creates this kind of toxic cycle of not being able to have a safe space. And I love that this film holds space for that character and for all of her messy experiences as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And particularly when Sam came on board, he said something that we hadn't realized, which is you'd never see Annette imbibe anything. There was no drinking, there was no eating. And actually,
Yeah.
the one moment she takes a sip of coffee, it's cold and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
But she just isn't nourished. She isn't nourished spiritually. She isn't nourished emotionally outside of her children. She isn't nourished. And even eating and drinking, there's just no time and there's no real concentration on her own nourishment. But so much it is interesting playing someone who's so held, because even in the moments of release and the breathing and her trying to calm and her trying to suppress is just withholding, really. It's not, I mean, it might help in the moment, but it's not. And she doesn't want to break because of her children. But even the moment where things feel like they couldn't get any worse, even that, she breathes and she calms down and she comes back into the room and she takes the kids to the park. So playing someone where even that, and I remember we hadn't really talked about that moment, but even the trying to stay quiet. And that was actually something that Sam had said, that she can't be too far away from them and she's desperately trying to stay quiet. She doesn't want anyone to hear her. Even that withholding of sound is so painful. So in the latter half of the film, there was so much enjoyment to be had when she is getting her strength back. But even then, it's interesting because there's not really a release. And I remember at the dinner table, when Ben has left the room, doing a quiet exhalation. But even that it's still. And the way I have been describing it is that night Annette will sleep better than she slept in years. But to your point, we're all told to, in some way or another, whether we're actually told or not to, we are led to believe that we should keep calm and carry on and do it all and cope with it all. So yeah, we wanted to lean into that feeling of someone who literally, even in their own home, does not feel they have the space to express themselves.
And that's one of the reasons also why the scene of Annette running outside of her home with the baby monitor and the sound kind of starts to crackle as she gets further and further away. That was such a powerful moment for that exact reason.
Yeah, and that particularly, we never wanted it to feel like, Annette is leaving us a crying baby at home. She knows the baby's safe.
Yeah.
But it's just too much. And Sam described it with the camera, is she's trying to leave the camera and the camera's trying to keep up with her. So even that, she can't really get away. And she's running and she's running and she's searching for a release. But the minute that sound crackles off and there's any chance that she can't actually hear the baby, that house is just pulling her back. And Amanda, our amazing production designer, did such a beautiful job in the home, because it's a nice house. Like, it's a nice house, but it's a gilded cage. She's trapped, she's claustrophobic, and because it's glass everywhere, you just get this feeling that Annette is being watched all the time. So even that, she can't escape it. In her running, she can't escape the house. And ultimately, it's another moment where it's almost a full expression. And then she has to go back and things have to carry on,
Yeah, and speaking more on that kind of visualization from the cinematography to the production design, Sam Yates brings a really atmospheric
Mm.
direction to this story. What was it like working with him and getting him on board for this?
It was amazing. We had met with a few other directors and everyone was fantastic, but Sam just had such an emotional understanding of the script as well as the cerebral, tonal understanding. And he really had an interesting perspective. And then when Laura came on board, our DP, and Amanda, our production designer, they were such an amazing team. Tom
Mm.
and I's influences. We had talked a lot about Tully and Gone Girl. And then Sam's real inspirations were Hitchcock and John Demme in particular. And him and Laura, they shortlisted the whole film, and they really understood how they were going to capture that feeling and how they were going to capture these characters in their respective moments. Even down to the text world, because we didn't want to just be looking at a phone the whole time. So we knew we had to
Mm.
extend that into something that felt heightened because it's Ben's imagination, but it's real in as much as it is real to him. So when Laura and Sam presented us with how they were going to shoot it, we were like, this is amazing. And then I wasn't watching rushes because I think that would have been too much. I couldn't have been watching myself every day. But even the scenes I wasn't in that I was watching on the monitor, I thought, wow, this is amazing. And that really comes down to having a crew who we trusted entirely. And we were all so on the same page about what we wanted to do, the film we wanted to make. It was a really symbiotic process in that way because we were all really shooting for the same target, basically.
You had mentioned there the references of Hitchcock and Demi, and there was one reference in the movie that I really appreciated. It was the Matilda reference when
Yeah,
Annette makes pancakes and
yeah,
the pretty one plays. And
yeah.
I thought that was so neat. What's the story behind that and how that made its way into there?
Well, Matilda's my favorite movie. So
Mm.
we named her Tilly because of that. And then that was something we had talked about the pancake dance. So we wanted something that really showed Annette and Tilly in their most joyful, in their weekly familial moment. Something that really, very quickly you understood this is something they do often, and this is why subsequently we understand it means so much to Annette.
Hmm.
And we really wanted that song. And all of the music, honestly, was Sam. He had a really clear idea of the soundtrack. And then Isabel, our incredible composer. But that was a song we really, really wanted because I wanted to just honor my favorite movie. And we were lucky enough to get it.
Yeah, and that movie really aligns with Annette's journey in some way as well, because of course, as we know, Matilda kind of finds her power
Yeah.
and learns how to use it in that movie. So
Yeah.
it was such a neat reference to this film.
And also Matilda in that film is such a bright spot for Miss Honey, and she's so
Mm.
tenacious. And I feel like Hiba, who played my daughter in it, was that. She's just such a beautiful, bright spot in what is often, pretty toxic household that I feel she has a sort of Matilda magic too.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of Matilda energy in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
I know that we're reaching the end of our time here, so I just wanted to ask one final question. So, in a movie that really builds to satisfying moments, what was the most satisfying moment for you in being a part of this journey?
I mean, being part of it from start to finish it's I have to say it's really surreal this week talking to people about the movie, and it's
Mm.
strange. Um it doesn't feel real, and I think in a few weeks I'll go. We were at the Twin Cities Film Festival this week, and it was just really to hear people talking about our movie, like even talking to them, like, oh my God, this is our movie that people are having a response to. It's all been pretty wonderful. And I think when we were editing, we always said to each other, have we drunk our own Kool-Aid? Because the edit was very simple, and we
Mm.
came upon amazing editor Chris. We came upon um, a cut quite quickly. And so we did a feedback screening because we were like, maybe we're crazy. Maybe we are all in a real odd thing and no one else is going to get this. And we did a feedback screening to a variety of different people from various walks of life. And it provoked such a conversation. I remember thinking, this is more than I could have imagined because, of course, there's so much in there And Tom could literally explain what every single word, there's a meaning for every single word, every single shot, every single moment. But to have people, even if they don't necessarily agree with things, agree with actions, I think to have these conversations about something that is resonating in like a honestly unbelievable way, that is really more than we could have ever imagined.
Absolutely. The way this film holds space for upfront conversations is so fantastic. Daisy, this is such a brilliant film. Congratulations on the story and on it being into the world. And thanks so much for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you so much. Amazing questions.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.